What makes a college football rivalry? Is it history?
Notre Dame has defeated Clemson.
Tradition?
Clemson's grandest entrance in sports.
The big stage? Or an iconic moment?
Hey, it was BYOG, bring your own guts.
And the Irish have knocked off #1 Clemson.
Notre Dame and Clemson might just be building one. Out of hype. Now the excitement grows as they meet again. Can the Tigers, on the heels of heartbreak, prove that their dynasty hasn't lost its stripes? Or will the resurgent Irish finally take down Clemson outside South Bend? The answers await in Death Valley. This is Notre Dame Clemson, and this is Shamrock Sports. And welcome to the second floor of the Duncan Student Center for this first week of November edition of Shamrock Sports. My name is Tyler Reedy alongside Jimmy Collins. Ben Rohr will join us later on in the show as we preview this Notre Dame-Clemson matchup, Game 10 of the regular season for Notre Dame football. And Jimmy, it feels like this is becoming a staple of the first week of November every single year at this point. The Irish and Tigers meeting again. What does it mean this year?
It is, absolutely. And I think this year, for sure, maybe one of the more lower stake matchups than in the past, where about the last 5 matchups we've had a top 6 team facing off in every single one. And I think this year a little less, but you got a Notre Dame team who wants to win 10 games and a Clemson team who wants revenge for what Notre Dame did and ended their season last year. So I think no playoff implications, but definitely some big stakes.
No question. And the stakes have been a big part of, like you heard in the open, this matchup becoming something like a rivalry. Notre Dame and Clemson have met 7 times, dating back to 1977. Clemson leads the series 4-3, but you look at the last 3 regular season meetings, they've ended with field stormings, and then Clemson, in 2 postseason matchups going back to 2018, dominated Notre Dame. So it's gone both ways a little bit, but it's highly contested. The stakes are huge. Notre Dame has a chance to even the all-time series. What are the emotions like around this matchup between Notre Dame and Clemson, and is it a rivalry at this point to you?
Absolutely. Ever since 2015, when Dabo Swinney said, "Bring your own guts," I think that really brought a lot of emotion around this rivalry. And I think no matter the matchup, the rankings, this will always be a big matchup, especially for Dabo Swinney, who has created a lot of hype every year around this matchup. And even though, like we said, there's no playoff implications, I think the past and the tension in the past has proved for this to be a big matchup every single time they face off.
It'll be a noon kickoff. Notre Dame coming in at 7-2, Clemson at 4-4 after back-to-back losses to Miami and NC State on the road. Now, Notre Dame's going to have a bit of a tougher entry to this game without their junior tight end, Mitchell Evans. He tore his ACL in the third quarter on a 13-yard catch and run in the Pittsburgh win, the 58-7 Notre Dame win last Saturday. He's out for the season. Notre Dame loses its leading receiver in Evans, who is really having a breakout campaign. Jimmy, what did he mean to this Notre Dame offense?
I mean, he was everything to this Notre Dame offense. He was our safety blanket, our go-to guy in many games. He made multiple one-handed, ridiculous catches, and it's disappointing to see a guy go down like that, especially the year he was having. He was our leading receiver. 422 yards on the season. Like, it's disappointing to lose a guy like that, especially with an offense that, at the end of the day, hasn't been what we thought it was. But he was one of the bigger bright spots in that offense, and it's disappointing to see him go down.
Yeah, Evans had some of his best moments and best games when the lights were at their brightest. You look at the Ohio State game at home, the Duke game on the road. He was a main contributor in this Notre Dame offense. But Jimmy, to step up and replace him, you're looking at the sophomore tight end Holden Staes.
Absolutely. I think Holden Staes has shown it this year. He had the big game against NC State where he had 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think with Notre Dame's history in the tight end room, we've shown that we can produce guys to fill in and later go on to the NFL. And I think Holden Staes is that next guy. I think he's shown he's averaging 13.6 yards per catch this year with 4 touchdowns. And I think he will be a perfect fill-in with the loss of Mitch Evans. But at the end of the day, it is the next man up, and it's Holden's time.
Holden Staes had 4 touchdowns in the first 4 games of this season during Notre Dame's undefeated start. Hasn't found the end zone since wins as Mitchell Evans has emerged and State's production has diminished. We'll take a quick break here on Shamrock Sports and be back to talk some Irish secondary with Ben Rohr.
Irish fans, as we near the end of another wonderful season, we also near the end of Sam Hartman's short but memorable tenure with the Fighting Irish. In terms of quarterback next year, Marcus Freeman said he's open to all options, which includes the transfer portal or staying in-house, and will meet with his assistants next week to discuss what to do. Let's go through all of his options. First up, keeping things in-house. The first option is Steve Angeli, a 3-star recruit out of high school, will be a junior next year, and this year won the QB2 job over Minchie. So far at Notre Dame, it has been a limited sample size, but he has been very good. He has gone 16-4-21 with a 76.2 completion percentage, 236 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a QB rating of 93.9. Also proven to be very mobile, as he had a 10-yard rushing touchdown to win the 2022 Blue and Gold game, and has had numerous huge rushing gains in high school. He's also great with throw on the run. After that, we have this year's QB3, Kenny Minchie, a 4-star recruit out of high school, top 12 QB in his class. He will be a true sophomore next year. He has proven to not be as mobile as Angeli, but has a much better and stronger arm and is a tremendous pocket passer. He's not as smart with the football. However, his high school senior year, he had 3,280 passing yards, 32 TDs, 9 interceptions, and a 61% completion percentage. Then, for number 3 in-house option, we have the incoming freshman, CJ Carr, Lloyd Carr's grandson, who chose Notre Dame over Michigan. He's a 5-star recruit and a top 5 QB in his class, the best QB recruit that Notre Dame has gotten in a while, besides the transfer portal, of course. And last year, in his junior year, he had a 69% completion percentage, 2,408 yards, 21 TDs, and 4 INTs. Out of all 3 quarterbacks in-house, he is the best pocket passer and also smarter with the football and less turnover prone than Minchie. He can make seemingly impossible throws under pressure and can evade out of sacks like Houdini, and he's awesome at rolling out of the pocket and making flawless throws. Then another option that Notre Dame could do is they could enter the transfer portal and get a quarterback like they did last year, Sam Hartman. A potential option is Cam Rising out of Utah, who will be a graduate student next year. And over the last 2 seasons, he has had 5,527 yards, 46 TDs, and only 13 INTs. And he has led Utah to a 10-3 record and New Year's 6 bowl appearance in both seasons, so he knows how to win. He also has perfect touch on the ball, has a very strong arm, elusive, and is a fast runner. In terms of an overall verdict, if Notre Dame is in win-now mode, go with Rising, because he's a proven winner and his attributes have already transferred to the NCAA level. With Minchie, Carr, and Angeli, they have the potential to be elite quarterbacks like Rising, but need time to develop and translate their attributes to the next level. They are projects that Notre Dame would only want to put out on the field if they are rebuilding.
Special thanks to Keen Bagenstos for that update on the Notre Dame quarterback room, a position group with some relative uncertainty entering 2024, but one group that Notre Dame fans are feeling pretty good about right now is the secondary, and here to tell us about it, it's Ben Rohr. And Ben, a big part of this secondary's surge in the second half of the season has been the senior safety, Xavier Watts, and his 4 picks in the last 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Xavier Watts obviously leading the country in interceptions. So if we start the clip right here, in USC game, obviously came up massive with 2 interceptions. I mean, obviously this first one here you see, Xavier Watts, not the toughest pick in the world. I think a lot of our guys in the secondary could have made that play. But a lot of the plays that I want to talk about with Xavier Watts is stuff like this. You start, he's not even in frame in the beginning of these highlights. If you pause it right here, where's he at? I have no idea. And yet it's that field vision from Xavier Watts that I really appreciate seeing, where he is the one that comes in screaming and down and lays a massive hit. to stop it from being a big play against USC. And, you know, a lot of these highlights are from that big USC game because last week against Pitt, you know, the defense didn't really even have to have that many highlight plays. But Xavier Watts, obviously, 6 picks, leading the country. The defense itself has 4 defensive touchdowns, tied, I believe, for #1 in the nation. So Xavier Watts, his poise on the field has been unmatched from anyone else, and he's playing out of his mind. And another thing that I want to talk about with the secondary is just the senior leadership, that veteran discipline that is being applied to the secondary and allowing us to have, you know, one of the stronger teams in the country. You've got Cam Hart, DJ Moore, DJ Brown, both started 10 games last season. So these guys, they've played Clemson before, they know what they're doing. I don't know, I think this is not a place we need to really be worried about on Clemson, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
And Notre Dame gets some of that leadership back this week. Benjamin Morrison and Cam Hart both returning in full capacity for Clemson. Morrison was out entirely last week against Pitt with a quad strain. Hart had to leave during the game with a shoulder situation. We're going to take a quick break here on Shamrock Sports and be back to talk some more about Notre Dame athletics across campus here as we enter the month of November.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ND Sunrise.
This is the review of the Keenan Review.
That's right, we've got a big game in Sin City.
Plot twist, I am the Grim Reaper.
Overall, this year's event was a rousing success.
Would Notre Dame be the first one to accept ASL as a foreign language as a department?
Once again, I'm Elena Morgan from ND Sunrise, signing off.
Well, it's that time of the year when Notre Dame fall and winter sports begin to overlap, and we've got plenty of Irish athletics, beginning with 9th-ranked ND women's soccer team, which fell 3-2 to Clemson.
Driving
in
at the
last
defense,
night's ACC
gives herself
semifinal.
some space.
And now the Irish look to the NCAA tournament, begins 11th. Meanwhile, the 2nd-ranked men's team will host Louisville in Sunday's ACC quarterfinals after finishing the regular season.
Ento again. Could he get a
Junior
fourth?
forward Eno
Yes!
Ento scored 4 goals in last Friday's 6-0 defeat of Pittsburgh, Notre Dame's largest margin of victory against a ranked opponent in school history. Coming off a weekend sweep of Mercyhurst, the hockey team announced Thursday it will take part in the Friendship Tournament located in Belfast, Northern Ireland in November 2024. The Irish will compete for the Belpot Trophy alongside Harvard University, Boston University, and Merrimack College. The Notre Dame men's and women's basketball teams will each begin their regular season. The men will host Niagara at 7 p.m. in Micah Shrewsbury's inaugural game as Irish head coach, while the 10th-ranked women's team will face South Carolina in Paris, France. And for more on that historic season opener overseas, let's hear from Alice O'Brien and Avery White.
Hi Shamrock Sports and happy November. I'm Alice O'Brien.
And I'm Avery White, and we're here to talk about the highly anticipated season opener for the women's basketball team.
The 10th-ranked Fighting Irish are slated to take on the number 6-ranked Gamecocks of South Carolina on Monday, November 6th at 1 p.m. The game will take place in Paris, France, marking the first time an NCAA regular season basketball game, men's or women's, has been played on Parisian soil. This game is significant not just because of this, but also for the continued momentum it will provide for the sport of women's basketball following the high attendance numbers of the 2023 National Championship game.
France will also certainly be welcoming the game with open arms. The country's national team took bronze at the Tokyo Olympics and will look to improve on their home soil next year at the 2024 Olympics held in Paris as well. As for Notre Dame and South Carolina, stacked rosters and 2 top 10 teams will no doubt make this game a top matchup regardless of which players head coaches Neil Ivey and Don Staley end up playing. As the 2022-23 ACC regular season champions, this game is an opportunity for the Irish to start the year off strong and continue performing at the high level that they have been in recent years. Well, that's all we have for you today for basketball.
Yep, for Shamrock Sports, this has been Avery and Alice. Now we'll take you back to the studio for more on football.
All right, Avery and Alice, thank you so much for that update. Should be a fun basketball season. We'll have a lot more coverage on our 2 teams on campus in next week's episode of Shamrock Sports. But first, Let's take a look around the college football slate, as it's hard to believe we have moved into the final month of the regular season on the gridiron. And the two of you guys, Jimmy and Ben, are both going with SEC matchups for this week.
Oh, yeah.
I'll kick us off. I'm going to go with, probably the most obvious pick here. Number 2, Georgia Bulldogs against the number 12, Missouri Tigers. Missouri last season leapt out to a huge 13-point lead against this Georgia team that eventually went on to win the title. I would argue their hardest game of the regular season last year, and I think this year they could do it again. They are just hungry. They're ready to go play this team. However, Georgia, they haven't really had a test. Their toughest test so far was a formerly ranked number 20 Kentucky team, no longer ranked. No ranked opponents currently as we stand in the college football playoff rankings. However, this Missouri team, I don't know. Georgia's really coming into their own, so I think it'll be interesting to see if their grit can sort of overweigh how, Georgia has really come into their own on the defensive side. Most sacks they've had all season last week against Florida. Beck had a great game. I'm excited to watch this one. Hopefully Missouri, could show a little grit and make it an interesting one.
Absolutely. I'm going to stay in the SEC, another top 15 matchup. Game day's there. Bama LSU. Honestly, there's nothing like it. It's a great game every single year. In the past, it's been kind of streaky. You'll have Bama dominate for 10 years, then LSU dominated the 10 years before that. And I think it might be trending back towards LSU at this point. A lot of the more exciting ones have been overtime, high-scoring games where LSU's come out on top, or you'll have a Bama blowout victory, Bama style. And I think it's going to be really exciting this week down in Tuscaloosa.
Well, I'm going to bring it a little bit closer to home here with football inside the friendly confines. A Big Ten West matchup that features, as of right now, the lowest over-under point total in college football history, 30.5. The over-under for Iowa and Northwestern, which will meet at Wrigley Field Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a Big Ten West matchup between two offenses that are notorious for not putting a whole lot of points on the board. It's going to be a defensive brawl inside Wrigley Field. Going to be a ton of fun to watch, really only if you're a college football psychopath, like many of us are on college campuses across the country.
A battle in the trenches, that one, It'll be a fun one.
Battle in the trenches. Stands should be packed in Chicago as Northwestern and Iowa head to Wrigley Field Saturday at 3:30. It's a fun slate, but now let's get into our Shambookie picks for the week in college football.
Yeah, let's make some money.
Yeah, let's make some money here. Our JJ Post, who has been kind of the guy, the betting analyst for this year, he's off the road in Clemson, so it's up to us to have a big-time week here as we enter November. Let's start with you, Ben. What's your pick for the week here?
All right, so Utah minus 11 against Arizona State. While obviously Utah is the better team here, I think Arizona State has they're a lot better than their 2-6 record shows. They have given a lot of trouble to a lot of good teams, including a win against Washington State. Washington State once, bit of a fall from grace, but once the 13th ranked team in the country, and that is not for no reason at all. A great win. They gave a lot of trouble to Colorado, a lot of trouble to Washington in a fascinating 15-7 matchup. So I think this Arizona State team has a lot more firepower than people really usually think. So, Utah, obviously, I'm not going to say Arizona State's going to come out with an outright win. I think minus 11 is a lot for them. So I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna take it to Ames, Iowa, where Iowa State, 2.5-point favorites at home against newly ranked Kansas, coming off a huge emotional win last week against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think going to be thinking about that one still. I think that took a lot out of them, and I think Iowa State, top 25 defense in terms of total defense in the country. It's a tough place to play. You've seen Iowa State games get pretty rowdy there in the past, and I think Iowa State comes away. The crowd helps them a lot, and I think they cover 2.5 and come out with a nice victory.
So we're all going with favorites for this week. We got Iowa State, we got Arizona and Utah as well, Arizona State and Utah, and I am going to go back to the Pac-12, head out west to Los Angeles for a ranked matchup. Washington at USC. I'm rolling with the Huskies here, -3 at Southern Cal. I think the books are undervaluing Washington a little bit after some closer than expected wins at home against ASU, on the road at Stanford, but the Huskies are still a firm playoff contender, and when you're undefeated like Washington is so far this season, you're going to have some bumps in the road. We've seen it in the past with Notre Dame teams that have made the playoff with undefeated regular seasons. USC in a little bit of a spiral themselves, just barely snuck out of Berkeley with a 50-49 win at Cal last week. I think Washington gets back on track and wins by 3 points or more in Los Angeles. Let's take a quick break, and we'll tell you more about our game picks for Notre Dame and Clemson on the other side here on Shamrock Sports.
Hi Irish, my name is Elise Dahoney and I'm the NDTV Director of Operations. If you'd like to support NDTV, make sure to click on the link on the screen or in our description. It's an Amazon link, will take you straight to the site, and any purchase you make through that link, we receive a small portion of the revenue. This is a great way to support NDTV and get all those things you need for the perfect Notre Dame tailgate. I'm talking, mugs and flags and hats and all the merch that you need. So make sure to click on that link and support NDTV. We're here for all of you. Thank you.
It is time for our weekly tradition, game predictions here between Notre Dame and Clemson. Let's start with a look at the new rules that have been installed for this second half of the fall semester. As you can see, 1 point for getting the winner correct. You get an extra 2 points for having the closest score with the winner, an extra 3 points for getting either of the team scores exactly correct, and you get 8 extra points if you get the game score precisely correct. We'll see bowl prediction points coming in later on, but we've already seen, Jake Irons, our sports director, has been booted from the leaderboard with 5 points. As you see, there is a cutoff line now. You got to make the cut week in and week out.
Hanging on.
Yeah, this week it's going to be 7. So Ben and Jake Miller, our NDTV president, are going to have to pick up one of those extra points this week. But as you can see, I'm still sitting pretty at the top with 14 points. Andrew McGinnis, a big win last week, trying to track me down as he enters double digits. So let's get into our own picks here. Andrew McGinnis, the winner from last week, going 27-14. Dylan Wallace, one of our staff members here at NDTV, going 24-20 in favor of Clemson instead. So mostly Notre Dame across the board, but we are going with the Irish, all 3 of us here. Well, 2 of us. Jimmy, you're going Clemson here.
Yeah.
I understand.
Wow, let's hear it.
I am. I think because Dylan did it, it doesn't make me feel as bad, but I'm going to go Clemson. I think they have a big opportunity. This is a big game for them, and I think it's not as big of a game for us as it is for them because they need to get their season back on track. They need that one big win, and I think the atmosphere will be tough, even though it is a noon kick. I think Clemson has a great defense. Notre Dame offense has kind of struggled later in the season, and I think going up against a tough Clemson defense, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be tough for the Irish, and I think Clemson pulls it out 20-17. I think it's going to be really close. Last second kind of heartbreaker game, similar to 2015, the bring your own guts speech, stuffed at the goal line. I think it'll be another one of those, and Clemson will take it, sadly.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Irish. I'm going to say that Clemson's going to continue to spiral right now. Notre Dame went on the road and beat NC State. That's a team that Clemson lost to recently. So I think the Irish are going to, Clemson, they struggle with the turnovers, and we know the Irish love their turnovers on the defense. So I think just those factors, I think Cam Hart and, Sam Hartman has faced this Clemson team a lot. He's yet to get a win with Wake, but he's faced this team a lot. I think he's able to sort of stay calm, and the Irish are going to get the win 27-20. So stick with the Irish.
Yeah, I've got a low-scoring game as well in favor of Notre Dame, a close one. I think both offenses struggle early on, but Notre Dame's defense, which has been the difference maker as of late, will get it done, make a big play at some point. 23-17, the final score. I'm going with the under. So is Jake Miller, our NDTV sports betting expert, who has under 44.5 for Notre Dame and Clemson. He's 35-23 on the year. So if you're looking for someone to tail this weekend, he might be your guy. But that's going to wrap it up here for Shamrock Sports here for Game 10 of the Notre Dame football regular season. Irish and Tigers coming up at noon Eastern tomorrow. For Jimmy Collins and Ben Rohr, my name's Tyler Reedy. Thanks for tuning in on this Friday afternoon from the second floor of Duncan Student Center. And for everyone back in the studio, thanks for making this show possible today. We'll see you next time on Shamrock Sports.